everybody, this is Brett, the Hoosier Carnivore. Got something cool for you today. Gonna carve up something good with some new toys that are pretty cool. I think you're gonna like this. Stay tuned. All right, 1, 2, 3. Boom, here it is. USDA Prime Beef Ribeye Roast. This was at Costco the other day, $14.99 a pound, if you can see that. But it's 19 pounds, should get quite a few good steaks out of this. Nothing like USDA Prime Beef. Now here's my first toy that we're going to use to carve up this beast. And here it is. It's almost too big to fit in the camera. My Victorinox it's almost like the Death Star going by in the first Star Wars movie. 14-inch breaking knife. And there I am. You can see my reflection. Oh, this thing should come with a complimentary box of Band-Aids. It's so incredibly sharp. Really nice quality knife. Decent backbone on it too for being a kitchen knife. So we're going to unwrap this thing and we're going to slice it up into steaks with our new toy. This thing's practically a machete. And voila, here we go. She's out of the wrapper, kind of rinsed it off and dried it with a towel. And what we're going to do, let me go out a little bit so you can see everything. We've got, so if you don't know, on these ribeye roasts, one end of it, this end down here, goes into the chuck roll, and it has the much bigger spinalis on one end. And I don't know about you, but that's my favorite part of eating one of these ribeyes, is getting one with the big spinalis on the end. So we're going to trim this thing up a little bit. Whoa, as I bump the camera. We'll move you over here so you can see this. Now the other toy I've got, is also a Victorinox. I used it to cut the bag open. Fibrox handle. And this is the 8-inch breaking knife. I'll show that off to you. I got both of these on eBay. They're like new condition. I think this knife actually was new. Well, maybe not. But I got it for a significant discount over what these things cost new. They're not super expensive. I think they're maybe $60, $70, $80 new. And I believe I got this knife for like 25 bucks on eBay. And I think I paid $50 for the big dog here. Got to think of a good name for this guy. So I'm thinking maybe the, I don't know, Beef Destroyer, Star Destroyer knife. I don't know. If you think of a good name for this knife in the comment, put it in the comments. So we'll see if who can come up with the best name for this knife. But we're going to use this big guy for slicing. We're going to use this guy to do a little trimming. So we've got some trimming to do on here. You don't want to have some of this stuff on your steaks. We can just trim that off. We got our little handy dandy bowl. We're going to put all of our fat trimmings into this bowl, and we'll cook them down for beef tallow later. So as you've seen on, if you've ever watched the butcher, the bearded butcher guys, they love using these Victorinox knives, and they also like cutting off like a little bit of this end here to make it oh, sorry about the wobble, to make it pretty so they can cut steaks up. But hey, these steaks are for me and my family, and we're just gonna cut the sucker. We're just gonna cut it, and it's gonna be great. Don't have to square it off and make it pretty for anybody. So here we go. Just need to be able to reach around my camera stand, and I'm going to cut these. I'd like to cut them about 1.5 inches thick. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, I washed this earlier, and we're just going to mark it off. I'll tell you what, why don't I turn it around? And then you guys can see how we're going to cut these things. Now, this isn't exactly straight, so I'm not afraid of actually cutting my steaks a little bit of an angle, just to save all the meat we can, because at the other end down here, it's kind of at an angle too. So it'll all work out just fine. So here we go. This is going to be about our, well, I like to cut my steaks about a little over 1 inch, not quite 1.5 inches thick. So I'll just make a little line like that, and then we'll go over right about there, and we'll cut another one, and then we'll go over right about there. We'll cut another one, and I'm going to do this all the way across. So I'll be right back. All right, carnivores, I'm back. As you can see, I made cut lines for about 1.5 inches thick steaks. We got out here to the end. I don't know how well you can see it, but we'll end up with one thin one here. So I'm probably not going to make this cut at the end. I'm just going to have one big ass thick steak. Oh. All right, here we go. Let's see how this big dog works for carving our steaks. And you want to use like a push-pull method when you're going through these. And pull and push, and there it is. Steak number 1. And I don't care that it's, you know, untrimmed or not flat on the other side. This thing's just going to go on the grill, and it's going to be delicious. Look at the flecking inside this. This is what makes it USDA Prime beef. All the little white flecking you see through there, that is all future flavor. I might go back and trim some of these out, take a little bit of this fat here off of the end, because there's more than enough fat on this roast to make it a great, perfect carnivore protein to fat ratio. So I may take a little bit of this off at the end and use it to make beef tallow. All right, let's do one more. Then I may cut this up and let you guys know how it comes out. There's my next cut line. You can see how thick that steak is going to be. Here we go. And push and pull, push, pull. And there he is. Oh, this one came out really nice. Really nice. Look how thick that thing is. They trim that a little bit to make it even. But look how nice that is. USDA Prime beef. Now we're cutting it down on the far end down here. And as we go this way across the cut, the spinalis is going to get bigger and bigger. See, this is just the ribeye, and then this is a little bit of a spinalis right there. There's not much there yet, but we will get there. All right. One more push-pull with you guys. Cut one more steak, and then I'll cut up the rest and get back to you. Push and pull. This big knife makes a perfect cut. It's no wonder the Butcher Brothers love these knives. I see our spinalis is getting bigger as we go down towards the chuck end. Look how thick that steak is. God. All right, so I'm going to cut a few more of these up, and I'll be right back. All right, quick mid-cut update. I'm about halfway through. Just wanted to show you how that spinalis is getting to its full size now. It's going to get a little bit bigger on the very last, but that's where we're at. And I'll explain here in a minute why I'm making these steaks so thick and big. Right back. All right, so here we are at the end of the cut, and I made a little command decision. Instead of using this cut that I had marked earlier, I decided to go ahead and cut these into 3 equal steaks instead of like one big thick steak. So this is the thickness of some of my other steaks. So I decided instead of getting 2 out of here, I'm going to get 3, and that's going to be perfectly fine. And as you can see down on this very end, this is the chuck roast end, and you can see how it's actually starting to look a little bit like a chuck roast. And here's our spinalis. Our spinalis is really big now. The eye of the ribeye is very well defined. But these 2 steaks down here on the end, look at those big giant spinalises there. And then this is the 4th steak from the end. 5th steak from the end. 6th steak from the end. And then that, and you can see how it progressively gets smaller and smaller. This was the 3rd steak I cut. So, nice little demonstration there on why the spinalis on some ribeyes are bigger, some are smaller. It just depends on which end of the steak it's coming from. So, if you're ever in a restaurant or have an opportunity to ask, or if they even offer it, you can say, I want to cut, or if you're at the butcher shop, matter of fact, I want ribeye cuts that are towards the chuck end. That's what you want. So if you really like a big spinalis on your steak, and who doesn't, you know what to look for now. So there you go. I hope this helped you. I'm going to trim some of the fat on these guys, and then I'm going to get my vacuum sealer out. We're going to seal up these steaks. And these are going to be, I was going to tell you guys why I was making these steaks so big. I'm going to start an OMAD, and these steaks are going to be my one meal of the day. Now I may mix in, bacon and eggs or something else in between to space it out, because frankly I can't afford spending $300 for a steak for a primal every 2 weeks. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to do. OMAD. Okay, bonus footage. Here's how I'm going to trim them using the 8-inch breaker knife. Got a little of this hanging off here. I cut that, and I'm going into, I got a little pile of tidbits here. This is my current pile of fat trimmings that we're going to use to make tallow. Nothing goes to waste. So just looking over the steak and you see something that's just kind of loose, that's not going to work out too good on the barbecue grill, we'll just cut that, cut it into little pieces, throw that in the little fat pile. And then sometimes you get this kind of loose fat right here. So we're just going to kind of grab that up, cut that off too. Slice it up, throw it in the fat pile. Okay. And this big fat here on the end, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim it like that. Take that little piece of meat. There's a little piece of meat on the end there. We're just going to zip that off, put it in our fat pile, cut up that there, put it in there, and then I'm going to make another cut about like that. And that's just all great tallow right there. That little piece just falls off. Sometimes these things just kind of fall apart, but here we go. Cut those up. This is the kind of beef tallow that people use to make their soaps and lotions and things. It's just really good, dense. You can kind of feel I'm squeezing it on how dense that fat is and how white it is. That's the good stuff right there. So there we go. Can maybe pretty that up a little bit more. Yeah. There we go. There's a finished ribeye steak. You could trim it a little more. And it's got that little loose right there. We're gonna take that off too. Zip, zip. There we go. Zip, zip. Finished. On to the next one. See you guys later. Bye. All right, I couldn't end this video without showing you the end result of my work here. We ended up with 12 very nice thick cut steaks. Now, if you were to do this yourself, you could easily get a couple more steaks than what I got if you sliced them a little bit thinner. Maybe like, an inch thick, inch and a quarter versus inch and a half or better on some of these. So you could definitely get more steaks than this, but I got a nice pile of meat bits here that we're going to fry up. Those are really yummy. And then I got a nice big bowl of tallow here that we'll cook up and use that for beef tallow, because I store my beef tallow in mason jars, and it's getting a little low. So we're going to fill this thing up. See you later, carnivores.